Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of You and Me and Multiple Sclerosis. My name is Pam, and I've been living with multiple sclerosis for nearly 37 years. And I wanted to share with you some of the thoughts and discoveries that I make along the way. And I would love to get your comments on any of this. Like, subscribe, all that stuff that you're supposed to do with YouTube channels. Anyway, today what I wanted to talk about was probably the single most common thread. It's true that we are all different, but fatigue does seem to be the one thread that connects pretty much everyone who's had MS for any length of time. You may not get that as your first symptom, but if you've had it for long, sooner or later, fatigue will catch up to you. And you know what it is when you get it. So it kind of makes it hard to even talk about with people because they don't understand what this word really means for multiple sclerosis, because it's pretty debilitating and no amount of sleep or rest is necessarily going to take care of it. So when we talk about managing fatigue, I think that's pretty much of a misnomer, right? You don't really manage fatigue. You sort of live with fatigue, or you learn how to live with fatigue. And right off the bat, I just want to give you sort of a nugget of hopefully inspiration. Yes, it's difficult to live this way. It is a daily limitation to have fatigue to deal with. But think about it in terms of a law of nature. When we were little children, we had to learn to live with and accommodate ourselves to the law of gravity. You knew about falling down. You knew about dropping things. You knew about that stuff. And you did that by trial and error and frustration and tears, but you learned it. You learned what happened if you tried to violate the law of gravity. It wasn't very enjoyable. And you probably got yourself in some trouble. So now here we are with multiple sclerosis, and fatigue is kind of like gravity. It's kind of like the law of nature that we have to accommodate ourselves to all the time, every day. But just because it is that doesn't mean there isn't anything we can do about it. Just like gravity, we learn to accept that it is a law of nature and go on with our lives and work around it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea that maybe we can live with it rather than manage it and not let it get the best of us. I was reading an article in the winter 2021 special edition of Brain and Health. I will link the magazine down below. A lot of their back issues are online, but this particular issue, I guess, is too new to be out there yet, but you can keep checking back. It's the winter 2021 edition, and it's a special issue on multiple sclerosis. So I was very interested to read an article. It was entitled Expert Ways to Ease Exhaustion. And as I looked at all their different suggestions, I agreed with some of them. I sort of agreed with some of them. I thought maybe they didn't go far enough. So, not to slam the people who wrote that very helpful article, I do appreciate it. I think I'll go through and talk about some of the things that they pointed out. I'm going to reorganize it a little bit and also to highlight a few things that they didn't talk about that I wish that they had. So first of all, you need to be looking at coexisting conditions. One of the things that will make the fatigue worse is if you have other conditions that may or may not be related to your MS but could be treated, whereas MS, as we know, can't be cured. But if you have sleep disorders, those could possibly be rectified. And sleep disorders range from sleep apnea, which everyone knows now about that. Your body's not getting enough oxygen. It causes you to snore and not get the air that you need during the night. So you wake up feeling more tired maybe than when you went to bed. That can be dealt with. Also, some of the medications, and even the ones we use for MS, but medications in general, can make you feel more tired. And one of the things that you'll want to check with your doctor about is the medications that you take and the possible effect that those medications might be having on your level of energy throughout the day. And that might allow you to either substitute a medication, change the dosage, whatever your doctor recommends. But I would say look into that. And then also, don't assume that just because you have MS, all of your fatigue is coming from MS. You need to make sure that you don't have some other medical condition like a blood pressure problem or a heart problem or some other type of problem that can cause your body to not be getting enough oxygen and therefore making you feel very lethargic and uninspired about life. So check into all of the coexisting or pre-existing conditions that you might have that would be getting in the way of your energy level. And second, I labeled these factors part of energy management. One big one is time of day. Needing to make sure that you know your own body cycle. We always talk about this, right? Some people are morning people, some people are night owls, and that would usually mean that not only are you more awake and alert at those times, but your energy level is higher at those times. Get to know your body and respect it. Don't try to force your body to be something it's not. So if you have more energy in a certain time of day, let's say you are a morning person, you might want to schedule something for that time of day that requires energy, whether it's physical or mental, rather than when you're already pretty vulnerable and exhausted. And for me, that is true. I'm a morning person, so if I want to get anything done that requires a lot of brain work or even emotional self-control, I better do that in the morning. So it's not just housekeeping or cooking or whatever else needs doing. It's all of the above. And I have to know that about myself, that by 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I'm pretty well done. And don't ask me to be as energetic at that time of day as I might be in the morning. You won't get the best out of me then. So another one that we need to be looking at is temperature tolerance. And this is an example of something that's different for everyone. The books and the magazine articles will tell you that people with MS cannot take heat. And so you need to stay out of the heat. As a general rule, that is probably true. For me, humid heat is far worse than dry heat. And so a temperature on the thermometer might be relatively low, but if the humidity is high, I am a limp rag. As opposed to when the temperature might be looking pretty high on the thermometer, but if it's a dry heat and I'm not in the direct sunlight for too long, I can do pretty well. So again, you need to find out how your own body responds to these different factors and decide for yourself what is the best time and temperature for you. The other thing is to find the sweet spot of exercise. All of the literature says that people with multiple sclerosis benefit from exercise. But exactly what that is, how intense, how frequent, how long, or what type of exercise, you need to do that by trial and error and figure out what works for you. There is no point in taking on an exercise that is so exhausting that you're shot for the rest of the day. And yet, at the same time, maybe you're being a little too easy on yourself and it's not really giving you much benefit either. So find that sweet spot, whatever it might be, whether it's walking, whether it's some kind of load-bearing exercise, balance exercise. You'd be amazed at the variety. And if you ever want some ideas about good exercises to do, if you don't have access to a physical therapist, just go out online. Exercises for multiple sclerosis. I'm sure there's many videos on that very topic, so you can get some good ideas there. Again, you need to be trying these things yourself. Just because somebody else tells you it's a good idea to do this, or that this exercise will be beneficial, does not mean that that's going to be the one that works for you. So my third category, I just labeled lifestyle management because I think we can manage our lifestyles. The first one is nutrition, and the article does talk about the importance of eating well. They specifically mention plant-based and low-fat. The diet that I've been on for the past couple of years has been predominantly plant-based. I'm not vegan or vegetarian by any means, but I don't eat very much meat. And I just feel better. And I don't know, that's sort of not very objective, but the standard American diet would probably make me feel far worse than I have been feeling for the past couple of years. Because even though your fatigue doesn't go away, if your general health and disposition is poor, then your fatigue is only going to be more exaggerated, maybe, shall we say. Another one is what they call mindfulness, and whatever allows you to focus, be present, try not to be so easily distracted. That's all good stuff that you might look into that, because there's a lot of resources right now on mindfulness. And also they mention positive attitude, and I think those go hand in hand, because if you're not getting a positive attitude out of doing the mindfulness exercises, then you kind of miss the point as far as I'm concerned. Because having a positive attitude will make a huge difference. Well, how can a person just kind of say, oh, I'm going to have a positive attitude today? And the old adage about, don't pay too much attention to the news is a good idea, because frankly, there's not much that's positive and cheery in today's news. And I'm not saying be an ostrich, stick your head under the sand, but you don't have to dwell on every single story, every 5 minutes updated on this, that, or the other disaster or disease outbreak or tragedy. It doesn't help you to do that. You just end up feeling very down and discouraged, and we don't want that. So gratitude is kind of the opposite of that. Take some time to think about why you're grateful for what you have, and maybe list those things. And you can even refer to those when you're feeling down and discouraged. One of the weird things that I'm grateful for is that I've become an older lady. My hair has gotten much nicer, believe it or not. It used to be pretty limp. And I get so many compliments on my hair now. And I keep thinking, now that I'm in my 60s, I have good hair? What is this? But I might as well be grateful for it. Another thing that I'm grateful for that my friend gave me after I finished my degree recently, she gave me a little banner that says, start something new. And I thought, come on, I just finished what I'm doing. I don't want to do anything new right now. But I think that's really good advice. I posted it up on my bulletin board, and I look at that and I think, yeah, I do. I need to start something new. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be a small thing. But just something new, something where I feel like, okay, I'm still learning, I'm still interested in life. So make yourself a banner that says that. Okay, another one, and this is huge, and I think I've hinted at this now by talking about my friend. Social connection, and this is something that the article didn't say anything about, and I wondered why not. Because this almost trumps everything else. If you are isolated and you don't have any connection with other people in the world, I don't see how you're not going to feel fatigued and isolated, and who cares, and what's the point, and I don't really have any motivation to change, or I mean, yeah, and if you're dealing with depression at all, it's only going to make it worse if you're isolated. So social connection, do something to be a friend, to make a friend, to get out in the world a little bit and see other people once in a while, even if it's just smiling at the cashier. Just assuming you're not wearing a mask at this time, I think you'll both feel better. And then finally, and I've hinted at this, be your own advocate. Don't just read the books and listen to the doctors and assume that, okay, this is what it is. I think it's important for us to do our own research. There's all kinds of resources for you now, but test the recommendations against your own experience and your own life, because I cannot say this enough. Your MS is not my MS, and certainly I have yet to meet a doctor who talks about MS who actually has MS. So as much as they might be helpful in many, many ways, and I'm sure their hearts are in the right place, they cannot be you, and they do not know what makes you feel better and what makes you feel worse. You have to do that. And the same with medicines. A lot of doctors are kind of in this, well, why don't we try this and see if it does any good? And, you know, some medications might be the exact right thing for you, but you need to research those yourself before you agree to start on some regimen of taking a medication that may or may not be right for you. Look at the side effects. Can you live with them? So there you have it. A rundown of things you can do to work around having fatigue as a law of nature in your life. Because remember, fatigue for someone with MS is like gravity for the rest of the world, and us too, unfortunately. And if you look at it that way, I think it will be a lot easier for you to accept the fact that, yes, I may not be able to walk a marathon anymore. I may not be able to do the things I used to be able to do, but there was always a limit. But that same thing is true for gravity. People all over the world are dealing with the fact that they cannot jump off the roof of the barn without catastrophe, right? So just think of it that way. We're just doing what we can to keep ourselves from catastrophe and to have an enjoyable life too, because life has so much to offer. Please don't ever forget that. You are important. You matter. And you always will. It doesn't matter whether you're fatigued or not. So do what you can to get to know your body well enough to know how to live with the fatigue that you have and to work around it so you can still live life. And that's all I have for you today. So take care, and I will see you again in my next video.